Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. That is going to be reading the last two chapters of Kabbalah and Exodus, um, which is chapter 47 and 48, which is actually deals with all the way up to chapter 40 of the book of Exodus. So this is called Kabbalah and Exodus, and the chapter I'm going to be reading now is chapter 40, 47. Let me make sure. Yeah, 47 and 48. So let me get this thing the way I like it to be. Background. Hope everyone's doing okay today. We've got some rain, which we need pretty badly here. Let's change this back over. Let's see what we got here. So, chapter 47, material and skill based upon Exodus 38 and 39. You'll notice that Exodus has 40 chapters in it. I think it has a lot to do with the age, could be also your age, at 40, which is your midlife, which is what many people call a midlife crisis. Suddenly they realize that they're married and they're not in love with the person anymore, or they're in the wrong location. They're doing something they don't enjoy anymore. Maybe they did it for a purpose of simply making money and they realize it's futile. They're not doing something they really enjoy and it's really eating at them. Or it could be something spiritual that is maybe coming out of what we call coming out of the church, how the church has deceived so many people by stating that you are a filthy sinner. Well, wait a minute, how can that be? Well, that's what Calvin said. John Calvin said that about people. He said you're just a worm in his eyes, to God's eyes. That's what he said. So this is a psychological not dubbing, but beating of human beings. And he also stated that there are those who are chosen and those who are not. And he's also guilty of killing someone, burning them to stake in Geneva, with the help of the city council, that is. But he was involved. He had to get permission from them. After all, I think he is an employee of the city council. You get it? Do you understand that? He works for the state. He works for the county, not county, but works for the city. Anyway, I got off tangent here. It's going to material skills and Exodus 38, 39. If and as if to bring us rapidly down to earth, the latter part of the 38th chapter of Exodus is concerned with a full line or a full list of materials used in the building of a tabernacle. In it are set out the quantities of gold and silver contributed by the community and by each man over 20 years old. This is recognized of an individual obligation towards the community, which imparts to him the benefits received from the upper worlds. This is right here is your heart. You see, this is a part of your upper world here. Up here is your upper world, and up here is your upper world. Also mention of the metals of the mineral realm, the linen of the vegetable kingdom, and yarn from the animal kingdom, which have been raised from their natural condition to be used in the holy unification of the worlds. The worlds are part of your body, you see, at different aspects of your part of who you are. This concept underlies the text as it repeats the type of materials and how they were transformed into many components of the tabernacle. You see, the tabernacle is you. You're the temple. Temple, God resides, you see, in a temple, you see. These temples that are built out here in, churches or what do you want to call them, are actually a outward representation of what should be taking place within you. And me and Phil Langdon have talked about that, different aspects of that. The temple at Lazar in Egypt are also important. And I've done that too. I've done that reading many, I guess it's been years ago. I don't know. It's been probably a couple of years ago. A reading of that particular book. Just my memory of the author is that he's a French one, but I can't remember his name now at the point. Anyway, where are we at here? This concept underlies the text as it repeats the type. Okay, we've been there. The accounting into talents and shekels, sets out the cost and weight so that all may perceive the total measure given. Israelites had not realized until this point that so much wealth was in their midst. When everything had been collected from every corner of the camp into one place, there had been a transformation. So you see, this is the whole idea simply is that you're seeing the individual they're no longer bickering because they're moving in the right direction, you see, with one another. Suddenly, a myriad personal Bibles had become the great treasure of the people. The lesson of uniting the parts into a whole and demonstrating at the material level in this chapter. Significance of the above for the individual is not only the issue as to how much a person may be prepared to give up his physical possessions, labor, skill, and time, but to recognize the shift of scale in the work and its fruits when the value of such things are given to something greater. Initially, there is much resistance as the vegetable level seeks to preserve its personal comforts, and the animal is symbols of status. Eventually, unless the work is left, the soul takes the possession of the lower nature and helps to offer them up as a sacrifice, which is must be repeated, means to make something sacred. With this comes the resolution of many interior conflicts between the interests of various parts of the body and psyche. The aim is to bring these all together to create a communal fortune that is greater than just the sum of all the contributions. After the evaluation of the materials, the text goes on to describe the making of the priestly vestments. First, the ephod is made. I spell EPHOOD. The 3 yarns of blue, purple, and scarlet bring woven into the base of linen. Then the gold is beaten into thin plates that are cut into strips and twisted in braid, which is woven into the yarn and linen. This process is long and exacting and requires sustained attention on the part of the seamsters, who must never forget what he is making or why. This work is quite unlike any professional commission. It is sacred and must be performed in such a way that no profane thoughts, emotions, or actions intrude and so contaminate the work. Because what occurs in the artisan during the creation, forming, and making of an object permeates it for the rest of existence. The beauty imbued by such conscious work can never be lost, as many grace-filled fragments of ancient workmanship still show. Nor can any flaw that has occurred during the creative process be eliminated. Indeed, many great craftsmen have recognized this law and prefer to destroy an object and start again, because such a deeply ingrained malformation cannot be rectified. So it is with any work carried out to reflect the perfection of the divine world. The epoch of the high priest represents this level within a human being. So it had to be the most perfect workmanship. The making of the Rosettas with their engraving, Cornelia stones, but an art demanding the highest kind of conscious work. The names of the sons of Israel had to be cut and set out as an esoteric pattern that embodied a metaphysic scheme, an allegorical meaning, and a ritualistic function. These 3 aspects combine the mind, heart, and body of the engraver. He had to know the significance of each name and their correspondence to himself. Sorry, not to himself, but in himself, as he made the seals, or there would be no resonance imparted into the object, which under his eye and hand would not only crystallize according to the form he gave it, but absorb the physical, psychological, and spiritual state he was in. Again, this is revealing a lot to do with spiritual aspects within us and psychological. Such artisans could not be ordinary men motivated by money or even pride of craft. It had to be of an order close to Berzalel, the artist of God. The construction of the breastplate develops the theme of the 12 brothers in precious stones that, according to their natures, the carabunton of Levi, for example, flashes like the lightning of the revelation of wisdom he received. Ishtar, sapphire, illustrates how he was devoted to the study of the tables of the law, which were made of this stone. Joseph's onyx represents the grace and favor of this generous brother. In contrast, God's stone was crystal, which gave the tribe hardness and clarity in battle for right and justice. Legend traces these attributes and those of the other brothers back to Jacob's blessing at the end of Genesis. The jewels, like the names, were then fixed into the breastplate according to a definite pattern that defined the laws of relationship between men who reflected the 12 spiritual types of human beings. This is also what Phil would call the 12 noetic signs within your, which is your nerves, but it also has the signs within your own head. The manufacture of the gold ropes, rosetta, and rings and their fisking to the ephod are described in great minuteness, so that the construction of the garment is seen to follow a carefully worked out sequence. The undergarment of blue and the checkered vestment are dealt with very briefly, which indicates a reduction of importance for those coats and those made for Aaron's sons. This process is echoed in the individual as he works down from the highest and deepest level of his being towards the upper parts of himself. However, everything he does is matched against the standard of his greatest moments, I should say, a realization which produced the divine goal from which he weaves his own ephod. Each day he works on spirit, soul, and body. The making of a pure gold plate to be set on the turban of Aaron is the final stage of the whole operation. Upon this plate were engraved the words Kodosho La Yahweh, holy to Yahweh. The plate was then fixed with blue braid, the color of the world of creation, to the top of the turban. The meaning of this for the Kabbalists, yes, is that the crown of the tree of the high priest is blessed by the Shem Ha-Forash, a special name of God. Their title corresponds to the level of the Creator at the center of the tree of the divine world. Thus, the high priest within each person can contact via the crown of the Spirit at the place of the inner ark. The Holy One, blessed be He. This is possible because it is said in Exodus chapter 20, verse 24, that where this particular God name is caused by the divine to be remembered, there the presence would come as promised into the consciousness of man. So we continue with chapter 48, simply with assembly and consecration. This is based upon Exodus chapter 39 and 40. On the completion of the work, the Israelites brought all their components of the tabernacle to be assembled. Moses then inspected every part to see it had been made accordingly to what the Lord had commanded. And so the scriptures said, quote, they had made, end quote. Anyone who had constructed something must know what it is like the moment before all the separate elements are joined together. It is the final pause in which to appreciate all that has gone into the making of the object. It is the last time many things will be seen before they will be hidden within the assembly and disappear forever into the depths of the totality that covers everything in its new dimension of unity. Such a stage occurred in Kabbalistic work. For many months or even years, the theory that had been learned and the practices diligently carried out, one by one, ideas have been understood and exercised, mastered. But will they are no more than a respected, I'm sorry, repertoire, I should say, of concepts and techniques. Suddenly there is the edge of a breakthrough. One begins to glimpse what the teacher says and does as all the experiences starts to find to fuse into a set of simple rules. The hours spent studying and performing uh, vanish into a series of moments that bring everything together once it is at the frontier of unity. Tradition says that Moses did not set the tabernacle up straight away, but delayed for 3 months, despite the fact that the people wanted to dedicate it at once. In this, it repeated a lesson of patience concerning matters of the spirit, or instead of accepting their teacher's word, which conveyed the will of God, the Israelites sought to impose their own will over what they had made. Despite Moses' instructions, they were to wait until the first of the Hebrew month of Nisan, Nison. This day, which began the season of spring. Interesting. Things bloom. The annual rebirth of nature was also the time of the Passover celebration of the Exodus out of Egypt. The people did not recognize the connection between the times, and Moses was subjected to much grumbling. This indicated that the people were still not ready, you see. But while the work had been carried out well, some had just been pleased to be occupied or even being maybe entertained. Moreover, while most operated satisfactorily under discipline, the moment there was nothing to do, it was clear that these bored Israelites would stir up the others into restlessness and resentment towards their instructor. This phenomenon is not unknown among those who cannot wait, which is a vital part of esoteric training. Unfortunately, it has to be demonstrated over and over again that the timing of a spiritual event is contingent upon a cosmic schedule and not the will of the individual. This is often ignored by the willful and will-less aspects of the people or their psyches. The remarks of certain Israelites about Moses spending all their money to serve his own ends, wow, while they, the people, were without the benefits of their work, is parallel in the individual and even in a study group in which dissidents members at the same stage of breakthrough seek to goat the instructor into some kind of action. Such events reveal many unseen motivations and show that there is still a long way to go in the personal discipline. It is often at this point that people break away from the work because there is nothing in it for them, you see. Frequently, they slander their instructor and seek to split the unity of the group because they think they know better than the experienced leader. That's pretty much the same way it is today. Legend tells how such people went to Bezalel and asked him to set up the tabernacle so that Shekinah might descend upon them and they dwell with the angels. But even he who had built the complex could not raise it beyond the stage of being a collection of components ready for assembly. This illustrates how even the psychological self, however skilled in the arts of the lower worlds, of form and material, cannot command the spiritual world above to unify the whole. At this failure, we are told some Israelites became very angry and spoke openly against Moses, saying they had spent much time and money as well as work on the tabernacle, and what had they got to show for it? We got to grow up. This phenomenon also occurs among those who expect results from spiritual labor. They do not work as service, but perform to attain certain privileges, you see, or special privileges. They consider their work like that done in the lower worlds, you see, where a person earns a physical reward or acquires a psychological skill, you see. In Kabbalah, the work at this level is done for its own sake. It is undertaken because it is recognized that Providence already has given an abundance of physical, psychological, and spiritual gifts. With this in mind, the Kabbalist pays his debts to the universe by being ready to aid in the work of unification. The legend goes on to say that all the people then went to Moses and asked him why the tabernacle could not be set up, not even by Bezalel. Had they done something wrong, been shoddy in their work, or omitted something? Moses replied, there was nothing wrong with the tabernacle or anything that was to go into it. However, he grieved secretly because even he could not understand at this point why the setting up had been so delayed. This shows that while Moses had his moments of contact with the divine, when he was not in communion, he too sank down to the worlds, to his optimum level of being this prophetic complement to Aaron at the Nezar position of Yazara. This means, I should say, not this meant even he did not always remember what he had been told or comprehended its meaning when he descended to the Yesodic position of ego. Fortunately, he still retained his faith and so was constant even in his perplexity. Such a state of wakefulness and then forgetfulness sometimes occurs just after deep meditation, when a lucid inner vision quickly clouds over on conscious turning outward into the physical world. It is usually due to the ego mind overlaying the depths with such superficiality and personal preoccupation, so that while the realization of some important inner sight is recognized, its significance slips back behind the veil of the unconscious. I think that, yeah, this is just true of all of us. Anything we do, this is kind of true, but this is even more pertinent when you think about spiritual work within yourself. And it's to emphasize Moses' humanity. Legend tells us that he asked the Lord in the tent of meeting just outside the camp the reason for a delay. The reply was that now Moses would see why he was not allowed to participate in construction. Israelites had supplied the materials and labor, Bezalel and his artisans, the form, and now he, Moses, would complete the three levels by assembling the tabernacle through the creative power of the Spirit. Moses said he had no idea how to set about it. The 40th chapter of Exodus contains his instructions and legend describe how they were implemented. Moses was told to assemble the tabernacle according to the law of the four worlds, as indicated by the recurring number 40 in the scripture. Firstly, he was to set up the tent of the tabernacle, put the ark of the tokens in it, and screen the ark with the veil. He was then to bring in the table and lay it, after which the lampstand was to be brought in. The sequence of instruction would then proceed to unfold stage by stage until the tabernacle was complete, with all its furniture and tools within the erected outer court. The oral tradition says that at the day of the assembling of the tabernacle and the consecration approached, everyone prepared themselves as they had for the receiving of the Decalogue from the holy mountain. Difference here, however, was that the event was going to take place below in the sight of all the people. Moses therefore had to prepare himself for the difficult task of being the agent down through which would flow the divine will in an act of miraculous creation. In this demonstration, the Israelites would witness one of the most profound ideas in the tradition, that man, the image of God, was the only creature capable of receiving and imparting the will of the divine while spanning all four worlds. This was the purpose of a human being. This is why we're not plants. This is why we're not animals. You see. No other creature, however large and powerful in the upper or lower worlds, could perform this function. On the first day of the month of Nisan, N-I-S-O-N, at the time appointed by the Lord, everyone gathered in the camp before the spread out components of the tabernacle. Moses, in a state of balanced equilibrium in which all four levels within him were integrated by his own merit and the help of grace, approached the scattered parts and touched them according to the order he had been given. At that moment, the universe aligned throughout, and fusion took place above and below as the power flowed down the worlds through Moses and into the parts of the tabernacle. They began to move together and to join one another before the amazed eyes of the children of Israel. The walls of the tabernacle tended and socketed themselves, creating, forming, and making the sacred spaces of the sanctuary and the Holy of Holies. Then the great curtain of blue, purple, and red cast themselves over the structure, or being covered themselves by the 3 layers of skins. The ark placed itself within the Holy of Holies, and the veil drew itself across the door, after which the sanctuary furniture positioned itself, and the holy utensils found their place before the screen. Hung itself over the door. Outside, the altar took up its position in front of the tent, with the laver situated itself before the whole complex in the space of the outer court. Suddenly, everything in and about the tabernacle was in its proper place. At last, the divine will to have a tabernacle throughout all existence was now manifested in every world. All that was needed to complete the operation was a ceremony of consecration that would join its purpose with that of man. Thus, as Adam, the microcosm image of the divine, would serve God within the macrocosmetic image of the tabernacle, face would begin to behold face. After Moses had anointed the tabernacle and everything in it with oil to symbolize the blessing of grace, he consecrated the altar and laver in the court, omitting the outer court, for it was not considered holy. He then had Aaron and his sons come to the door of the tent of the present and wash themselves so as to be fit to enter the priesthood. You see, it's a big deal here. Aaron was then ceremonially clothed in the vestment of the high priest and anointed, after which his sons were dressed and anointed as priests. These rituals of dedication and consecration were completed by the raising of the outer fence and the closing of its gates, which separated the sacred from the profane. At this moment of completion, the cloud that had accomplished the Israelites of Egypt descended and covered the tent of meeting. The Hebrew text says, see if I can make these words up. I'm not making these words, but see if I can say them right. Al-Kavah, Yahweh, Malay, El Ha, Mishkan. And the glory of Yahweh filled the tabernacle, end quote. That is the presence of the divine world manifested throughout all the worlds to focus within the tabernacle as it laid under the cloud of the Holy Spirit. Quote, and Moses was not able to enter the tent of meeting because the cloud dwelled upon it and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle, end quote. According to legend, the descent of the glory had not occurred on the earth since the days before Adam and Eve had sinned. And what's sin here? I want people to understand, this word is sin, but what it means simply is another word would be fallen. It means simply they've fallen, they being spirit, and fallen into the physical world. Okay, so let's just understand this whole rigmarole about you fallen has nothing to do with you being a sinner. It has to do with simply as you were in the spirit world and you took on flesh, and now you had to deal with your flesh. You see, when you were a spirit, you didn't have to deal with the physical. You didn't have to deal with simply as, yes, I got to eat today, got to sleep, such and such. All these little things you have to deal with that actually occupies your time. You see, and this is where all churches mess it up. They just completely mess it up. You see. Because they don't understand, because they're not looking at it in a different direction, you see. On this day, however, it was seen by all the children of Israel that it was by ordinary men and women as they stood in awe, witnessing the outward downflow of creation touch earth, then turned upwards in the ascent of inward evolution. It was a momentous moment in the cycle of existence. From this day on, there were beings who could perceive divinity at the mineral, the vegetable, the animal, and the human level of reality. Legend adds that from this day on, the Lord's relationship changed with Moses. He was to hear the divine voice change from awesome tones of judgment to a sweet and gentle whisper that spoke more of mercy. This latter attribute, it is said, permeated all the worlds that day, so that even the demonic forces of the universe were quieted. The work of unification had entered a new phase. For the individual, all the foregoing described a profound moment of integration. Suddenly one day all they had been learned and practiced became real. Months and perhaps years of work and preparation coalescing in deep experience during a ceremony of dedication. In that moment of initiation, everything is brought into unison to make the interior tabernacle operational. Into this sanctuary comes a light that illuminates partially understood concepts and activates incomplete functions. Suddenly, many separated elements within the being are perceived to form a single interorganism, where the spirit flowing down from the world of creation can be received and imparted, and an individual can act as a host and high priest in his own holy of holies, the presence of the divine. The book of Exodus closes with a verse that describes it in allegory. Well, all of it's in allegory. I don't know why he said that, but anyway, the situation of a consecrated person who is formed at time on his way back to the promised land. For the cloud of the Lord was upon the tabernacle by day, and fire was on by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. So that's the continued chapter. We have, there's one more chapter here, but I don't know if I'm going to do that tonight, which is the epilogue. It's been a little longer than I thought it would have been. Let's see what we're going to need to do here. I need to do something else real quick here. So this is just the idea simply is that this is what we're supposed to be doing in our lives here. This is what he tried to share in the Kabbalah and Exodus here. And this guy's a brilliant guy. He lived in England most of his life. He did many things in England. He was involved tremendously, and he wrote quite a few books. This is about Kabbalah. Many people in the church would say, this is evil and all that stuff, and they have no idea what they're talking about. But I was like that for a long time in my life myself, so I can't judge. It just needs to grow up. We all need to grow up. So we'll probably not do the epilogue tonight. We'll probably do it another day. Will be the conclusion of this book, Kabbalah and Exodus. I don't know what other book I'm going to look into at this point by him. At this point, just been reading some things I wanted to look into. So, but I appreciate your attendance and hope that this has some meaning to you and encourage you to see the truth. The Bible is not what preachers and so-called teachers that have been taught in seminaries. They're just getting they're just getting the outer skin, and they're not getting the inward part of what's important about why we're here and our purpose. You see, the whole idea of the falling simply is, like I said earlier, it's just simply we're falling in a world, and we're falling into a material world. You see, and we never die. You see, that's part of God. You see, we're forever. You see, and the church uses what I call psychology in a way that's mind bending, in a way to cause people to feel as though they're never good enough. Well, that's somewhat true, but the point simply is God understands, because simply is you're in a fallen world, meaning that you are now in the physical body, that you were not in the physical body before when you reincarnate here. And when you die, and if you don't make heaven here at this point within yourself, not make heaven on this earth, because that's never going to happen, folks. That will never happen. That's what people are looking for all the time. They're hoping we can make heaven on earth, and that's impossible. You see, it's your inward work. This is your work within yourself, and that's what we're supposed to be about. And that's why we're giving time each time we're here. And God is long suffering, meaning it simply is that you may reincarnate here many, many times. Who cares? That's not important to God. You see, eventually you will get to the truth. But you have to learn these things, when you're here, and it's like you're graduating from maybe the first grade to the second grade, so to speak, or moving from the kindergarten level to the first grade. It's just a process, it takes time for that process to take place, you see. And no, we don't go to hell either. We are really in what we call in hell now because simply is we're in the physical body, you see. So we have to take care of the body in order to live on this planet. That means that we have to work. That means we have to have a place to stay. That's part of living in the flesh. That's part of the ruggedness of it all. It's the struggles with that. And then there are what I would call the physical needs, the psychological needs, so to speak. And, it takes time. But that doesn't mean you don't try. That means you must pursue these things, upwardly, that is. And we've been blessed in a lot of ways simply as we can read these books now that at first were meant for what I would call someone to buy a book and read it. But now you can read these books online and you can educate yourself and find out really more about who you are, you see. And there is a process taking place, you see. So again, thank you for being here. And I wish you a good evening. You take care. All right. Good night.